Good morning. Gorgias of Plato, day 5. Socrates speaking. And in our earlier discussion, Gorgias, it was stated that rhetoric is concerned with words that deal, not with the odd and even, but with right and wrong. Is that so? Yes. Now, at the time when you stated this, I considered that rhetoric could never be a thing of evil, since its discourse is always concerned with justice. But when a little later you said that the rhetorician might actually make an evil use of rhetoric, I was surprised and considered that what was said was inconsistent. I spoke as I did, saying that if, like myself, you thought it of value to be refuted, it was worthwhile pursuing the conversation, but if not, we should let it drop. And as a result of our subsequent review, you can see for yourself it is admitted that the rhetorician is incapable of making a wrong use of rhetoric and unwilling to do wrong. Now, by the dog, Gorgias, it will need no short discussion to settle satisfactorily where the truth lies. Polus, someone else. Oh, I think it's his disciple, right? What, Socrates? Is what you are saying your true opinion about rhetoric? Or do you imagine just because Gorgias was ashamed not to admit that the rhetorician will know the just also, and the honorable and the good, and that if any man came to him without this knowledge, he himself would instruct him, and then, as result, I suppose, of his admission, a contradiction arose in the argument, which is just what you love, and you yourself steer the argument in that direction. It is funny that everyone sees this in Socrates. Why, who do you think will deny that he himself knows the right and will teach it to others? But it is the height of bad taste to lead discussions into such channels. Socrates speaking. My noble friend Polus, the very reason why we acquire friends and children is that when we ourselves grow old and make slips, you younger people present may set us right both in actions and in words. And now if Gorgias and I are tripping anywhere in our argument, here you are to lend a helping hand. It is only right that you should do so. And if you think that any of our admissions are at fault, I am willing to retract whatever you desire, provided that you observe one condition. What is that? That you restrain that exuberance, Polus, which you set out to use at first. What? May I not speak at what length I please? It would indeed be hard on you, my good friend, if on coming to Athens, the one spot in Greece where there is the utmost freedom of speech, you alone should be denied it. But look at my side. Would it not be hard on me also, if I may not go away, and refuse to listen, when you speak at length, and will not answer the question? But if you have any interest in what has been said, and wish to set it right, then, as I said just now, retract whatever you please, question and answer in turn, as Gorgias and I did, and refute me and be refuted. For you say, to be sure, that you know what Gorgias knows, do you not? I do. And do you not also bid anyone at any time to ask what he will, since you know how to answer? Certainly. Then do whichever of the two you choose. Now, question or answer. Well then, I will do so. Answer me, Socrates, since Gorgias seemed to you at a loss regarding the nature of rhetoric. What do you say it is? Are you asking what art I hold it to be? I am. To tell you the truth, Polus, no art at all. Probably techne. What do you think But what do you think rhetoric is? Something of which you claim to have made an art in your treatise, which I recently read. What do you mean? I call it a kind of routine. Then you think rhetoric is a routine? Subject to your approval, I do. What kind of routine? One that produces gratification and pleasure. Then you do not think rhetoric a fine thing, if it can produce gratification among men. What, Polus, have you already learned from me what I consider rhetoric to be, that you proceed to ask if I do not think it a fine thing? Have I not learned that you call it a kind of routine? Well, since you prize gratification so highly, will you gratify me to a small extent? I will. Then ask me what kind of art I consider cookery. I will. What art is cookery? No art, Polus. Then what is it? Tell me. In my opinion, a kind of routine. Tell me what routine. One that produces gratification and pleasure, I claim, Polus. Then cookery and rhetoric are identical? By no means. But each is a part of the same activity. And what is that? I'm afraid it may sound unmannerly to tell the truth, and I hesitate for fear that Gorgias may think I am caricaturing his profession. For my part, I do not know whether this is the rhetoric that Gorgias practices, for we reached no definite conclusion in our recent argument as to his opinion. But what I mean by rhetoric is part of an activity that is not very reputable. What is it, Socrates? Tell us, and feel no scruples about me. Well then, Gorgias. Gorgias said that. Well then, Gorgias, the activity as a whole, it seems to me, is not an art, but the occupation of a shrewd and enterprising spirit, and of one naturally skilled in its dealings with men, and in sum and substance I call it flattery. Now it seems to me that there are many other parts of this activity, one of which is cookery. This is considered an art, but in my judgment is no art, only a routine and a knack. And rhetoric I call another part of this general activity, and beautification, and sophistic, 4 parts with 4 distinct objects. Now if Polus wishes to question me, let him do so, for he has not yet ascertained what part of flattery I call rhetoric. He does not realize that I have not yet answered him, but proceeds to ask if I do not think it something fine. But I shall not answer whether I consider rhetoric a fine thing or a bad, until I have first answered what it is. For that is not right, Polus. Then if you wish to question me, ask me what part of flattery I claim rhetoric to be. I will, then, answer what part. I wonder whether you will understand my answer. Rhetoric, in my opinion, is the semblance of the part of politics. Well then, do you call it good or bad? Bad. For evil things I call bad, if I must answer you as though you already understood what I mean. Gorgias speaks. Why, Socrates? Even I myself do not grasp your meaning. Socrates. Naturally enough, Gorgias, for I have not yet clarified my statement. But Polus here, like a fowl, is young and flighty. Gorgias. Well, let him alone, and tell me what you mean by saying that rhetoric is the semblance of the part of politics. Socrates. I will try to explain to you my conception of rhetoric, and if it is wrong, Polus will refute me. You admit the existence of bodies and souls. Of course. And do you not consider that there is a healthy condition for each? I do. And a condition of apparent but not real health. For example, many people appear to be healthy of body, and no one could perceive that they are not so, except a doctor or some physical trainer. That is true. There exists, I maintain, both in body and soul, a condition which creates an impression of good health in each case, although it is false. That is so. And now he speaks for a very long time. Let me see now if I can explain more clearly what I mean. To the pair, body and soul, there corresponds two arts. That concerned with the soul I call the political art. To the single art that relates to the body I cannot give a name offhand. But the single art that cares for the body comprises two parts, gymnastic and medicine. And in the political art, what corresponds to gymnastic is legislation, while the counterpart of medicine is justice. Now in each case the two arts encroach upon each other, since their fields are the same, medicine upon gymnastics and justice upon legislation. Nevertheless, there is a difference between them. There are then these four arts which always minister to what is best. One pair for the body, the other for the soul. But flattery, perceiving this, I do not say by knowledge but by conjecture, has divided herself also into four branches, and insinuating herself into the guise of each of these parts, pretends to be that which she impersonates. And having no thought for what is best, she regularly uses pleasure as a bait to catch folly, and deceives it into believing that she is of supreme worth. Thus it is that cookery has impersonated medicine, and pretends to know the best foods for the body, so that if a cook and a doctor had to contend in the presence of children, or of men as senseless as children, which is of the two, doctor or cook, as an expert in wholesome and bad food, the doctor would starve to death. This then I call a form of flattery, and I claim that this kind of thing is bad. I am now addressing you, Polus, because it aims at what is pleasant, ignoring the good, and I insist that it is not an art but a routine, because it can produce no principle in virtue of which it offers what it does, nor explain the nature thereof, and consequently is unable to point to the cause of each thing it offers. And I refuse the name of art to anything irrational. But if you have any objections to lodge, I am willing to submit to further examination. You have cookery and then you have cookery, of course. Some are probably better than medicine. To keep the body healthy. Cookery, then, I say, is a form of flattery that corresponds to medicine, and in the same way gymnastic is personated by beautification, a mischievous, deceitful, mean, and ignoble activity, which cheats us by shapes and colors, by smoothing and draping, whereby causing people to take on an alien charm to the neglect of the natural beauty produced by exercise. To be brief, then, I will express myself in the language of geometricians, for by now perhaps you may follow me. Sophistic is to legalization what beautification is to gymnastic, and rhetoric to justice what cookery is to medicine. But as I say, while there is this natural distinction between them, yet because they are closely related, sophist and rhetorician, working in the same sphere and upon the same subject matter, tend to be confused with each other, and they know not what to make of each other, nor do others know what to make of them. For if the body was under the control not of the soul, but of itself, and if cookery and medicine were not investigated and distinguished by the soul, but the body instead gave the verdict, weighing them by the bodily pleasures they offered, then the principle of Anaxagoras would everywhere hold good. That is something you know about, my dear Polus, and all things would be mingled in indiscriminate confusion, and medicine and health and cookery would be indistinguishable. Well, now you have heard my conception of rhetoric. It is the counterpart in the soul of what cookery is to the body. And perhaps I have acted strangely in speaking at such great length after forbidding you a lengthy discourse. But it is only fair that you should excuse me, for when I spoke briefly you did not understand, and you were unable to make anything of the answer I gave you, but needed an explanation. If then I cannot follow any answer of yours, you too may speak at length. But if I can, then indulge me by being brief, for that is fair. And now, make what you can of my answer. Maybe rhetoric is like cooking. Rhetoric is to what, justice? Because it can be both. I think it can be used both for good or evil. Have a beautiful day.